Welcome to the Gaze into Cinema YouTube channel. History of Hazrat Musa, A.S. Peace be upon him. Hazrat Musa, A.S. was quite possibly of the main prophet and couriers of Islam. He was brought into the world in Egypt when the Israelites were subjugated by the Pharaoh. Musa, A.S. was picked by Allah to convey the Israelites from their servitude and to direct them to the guaranteed land. Musa, A.S. was brought up in the Pharaoh's royal residence, however he always remembered his Israelite legacy. At the point when he grew up, he saw the persecution of his kin and he felt a sense of urgency to help them. At some point, Musa, A.S. saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite. Musa, A.S. mediated and killed the Egyptian. He then escaped from Egypt to Midian, where he resided for a long time. At some point, Musa, A.S. was tending his run in Midian when he saw a fire somewhere out there. He went to examine and he was met by the holy messenger Jibril. Jibril told Musa, A.S. that he had been picked by Allah to be a prophet and courier. Musa, A.S. was reluctant from the start, however he in the end acknowledged Allah's order. Jibril told Musa, A.S. to get back to Egypt and to stand up to the Pharaoh. Musa, A.S. was apprehensive, however he complied with Allah's order. He got back to Egypt with his sibling Harun, A.S., and they together conveyed Allah's message to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh wouldn't pay attention to Musa, A.S., and Harun, A.S. He professed to be a divine being and he wouldn't let the Israelites out of their subjugation. Allah then, at that point, sent a progression of infections upon Egypt to rebuff the Pharaoh and his kin. The sicknesses caused far-reaching annihilation in Egypt, yet the Pharaoh actually would not yield. At long last, Allah sent the 10th plague, the demise of the firstborn. This plague killed the firstborn child of each and every Egyptian family, including the Pharaoh's own child. After the 10th plague, the Pharaoh at long last consented to deliver the Israelites. Musa, A.S. drove the Israelites out of Egypt and into the desert. They meandered in the desert for a very long time, during which time Allah uncovered the Torah to Musa, A.S. The Torah is a heavenly book that contains Allah's regulations and direction for the Israelites. It is otherwise called the Pentateuch, and it is the initial 5 books of the Jewish book of scriptures. While in the desert, the Israelites confronted many difficulties. They were ravenous, parched, and they were many times gone after by their foes. Yet, Musa, A.S. was consistently there to guide and support them. At some point, Musa, A.S. drove the Israelites to the highest point of a mountain so they could get the 10 rules from Allah. The 10 rules are a bunch of moral rules that guide Muslims in their day-to-day routines. Subsequent to getting the 10 instructions, the Israelites proceeded with their excursion to the guaranteed land. Be that as it may, before they arrived at their objective, Musa, A.S. passed on. He was covered on Mount Nebo in Jordan. Musa, just like an incredible prophet and courier of Allah. He devoted his life to serving Allah and to directing the Israelites to the guaranteed land. He is associated with his boldness, his insight, and his resolute confidence in Allah. Continuously comply with Allah, in any event, when it is troublesome. Musa, A.S., complied with Allah's order to defy the Pharaoh, despite the fact that he realized it would be risky. Never abandon your objectives. Musa, A.S., drove the Israelites through many difficulties, yet he never abandoned his objective of driving them to the guaranteed land. Trust in Allah, in any event, when things are troublesome. Musa, A.S., confided in Allah in any event, when the Israelites were ravenous, parched, and went after by their adversaries. Be patient and persisting. Musa, A.S., and the Israelites meandered in the desert for a very long time before they arrived at the guaranteed land. Pardon others. The Israelites defied Musa, A.S., on many events, yet Musa, A.S., consistently pardoned them. Hazrat Musa, just like an incredible prophet and courier of Allah. He is a good example for all Muslims. We ought to endeavor to follow his model in our own lives. Hazrat Musa, a.s., was conceded numerous marvels by Allah. The following are a couple of the most renowned, changing over his staff into a snake. Musa, a.s., utilized his staff to perform numerous wonders, including changing over it into a snake. This wonder was utilized to persuade the Pharaoh of Musa's, a.s., prophethood. Parting the ocean. At the point when the Israelites were escaping from the Pharaoh, Musa, a.s., split the Red Ocean with his staff. This permitted the Israelites to cross securely, while the Pharaoh and his military were suffocated, giving sustenance and quails to the Israelites. While the Israelites were meandering in the desert, Allah furnished them with sustenance and quails to eat. This supernatural occurrence showed the Israelites that Allah was generally with them and that He would accommodate their necessities. Getting the 10 instructions. Musa, as, drove the Israelites to Mount Sinai, where Allah uncovered the 10 instructions to him. These instructions are the groundwork of Islamic regulation and morals. Hazrat Musa, a.s., is quite possibly of the main prophet and couriers in Islam. He is associated with his mental fortitude, his insight, and his unfaltering confidence in Allah. His wonders are a demonstration of Allah's power and benevolence. Hazrat Musa, a.s., is additionally associated with his job in laying out the underpinnings of Islamic regulation and morals. The 10 precepts that he got from Allah are as yet followed by Muslims today. Hazrat Musa, just like, a good example for all Muslims. He demonstrated us being a genuine devotee and to submit to Allah's orders. We ought to endeavor to follow his model in our own lives. Conclusion. Hazrat Musa, similar to an incredible prophet and courier of Allah. He committed his life to serving Allah and to directing the Israelites to the guaranteed land. He is associated with his boldness, his insight, and his unflinching confidence in Allah. His wonders are a sign of Allah's power and kindness. His part in laying out the underpinnings of Islamic regulation and morals is huge. Hazrat Musa, similar to, a good example for all Muslims. We ought to endeavor to follow his model in our own lives. Enchanted Gaze Cinema, thanks you for watching. Next.